the last pharaoh. In the royal quarters of Alexandria's palace along the Nile River Delta in 69 BC, the third daughter of Pharaoh Ptolemy III was born. She was named Cleopatra, meaning glory of the father in Greek. Though born into a dynasty of Greek origin, Cleopatra would embrace the culture of ancient Egypt and become the last pharaoh to rule an independent nation before it was absorbed into the Roman Empire. Cleopatra was intelligent and educated, fluent in 9 languages. She studied disciplines like philosophy, oration, literature, art, music, and was the only Ptolemy ruler to learn the Egyptian language. Cleopatra ascended the throne at 18 in 51 BC after the death of her father. As part of Egyptian royal tradition, she was forced to marry her younger brother Ptolemy III, who was 10 years old at the time. Almost immediately, a power struggle ensued between Cleopatra and the men who controlled her brother. In 48 BC, the civil war between Cleopatra and Ptolemy III turned violent. Her forces were defeated by her brother's army, leading Cleopatra to flee Egypt to raise another army. It was around this time she met the powerful Roman general Julius Caesar while appealing for his support to regain the throne. Caesar was instantly captivated by the young queen. Their alliance marked a turning point in Cleopatra's struggle for power. In 47 BC, at the height of the civil war, Caesar's arrival in Egypt with Roman reinforcements allowed Cleopatra to regain control as sole ruler. Ptolemy III later drowned in the Nile River after an attempted escape. Caesar spent the next several months touring Egypt with Cleopatra in her royal barge. It was rumored she became Caesar's secret lover during this time and gave birth to his son, Ptolemy. Caesar known as Caesarion in 47 BC. Caesar returned to Rome with Cleopatra as his mistress and guest. She lived in his villa located across the Tiber from the city. Her presence in Rome caused a scandal, as Romans disapproved of her influence over Caesar, who had accepted a golden statue of himself erected by Cleopatra in the temple of Venus Genetrix. After Caesar's assassination in 44 BC, Cleopatra returned to Egypt. The power vacuum in Rome was eventually filled by Mark Antony, one of Caesar's generals who now controlled the Eastern Roman Empire. Eager to inherit the territories once granted to her by Caesar, Cleopatra knew she needed to develop a close relationship with Antony. In 41 BC, Antony summoned her to meet him in the town of Tarsus, located in modern-day Turkey. Cleopatra set out to use her powers of seduction and charm to win over the Roman leader. She arrived on a lavish barge adorned with purple sails and silver oars. She dressed as Aphrodite, Greek goddess of love, surrounded by attendants dressed as cupids, and reclined under a gold canopy while exotic incense perfumed the air. Antony was instantly enamored and enthralled by her extravagant display. Thus began one of history's legendary romances between the Roman general and Egyptian queen, who were both powerful rulers in their own right. Antony and Cleopatra spent the winter of 41 to 40 BC living in luxury and extravagance. According to some ancient sources, Antony would joke that he and Cleopatra would spend 10 million sesterces on just one supper party. In 40 BC, Cleopatra gave birth to twins, a boy named Alexander Helios and a girl named Cleopatra Selene. Antony returned to Rome and attempted to resume his control of the empire's western territories. He married Octavia, the sister of Octavian, Mark Antony's rival in Rome, as part of a political alliance. He still longed for Cleopatra, and after a few years with Octavia, Antony returned to Alexandria and reunited with Cleopatra in 37 BC. He granted extensive lands to Cleopatra, including Cyprus, the coast of Lebanon, parts of Judea, and large portions of Syria and Cilicia, the coastal regions of Anatolia. In recognition of her son with Julius Caesar, Antony also granted ruler status to Caesarion. This allowed him to serve as co-ruler with his mother, making him Caesarion Eppertiti, Theos Philopator Philometor, caesarion, son of God, father-loving and mother-loving. These acts furthered the rivalry with Octavian, who saw Antony as handing over Roman territories to a foreign queen and her offspring. Antony and Cleopatra had another child, Ptolemy Philadelphus, born in 36 BC. Antony also accompanied Cleopatra on a state visit to Herod in Jerusalem. Antony greatly offended the Jews by sending a troop of soldiers to demand the city gates be opened for them on the Sabbath. Back in Rome, Octavian seized Antony's will from the Temple of Vesta, where it was required to be kept. The will stated that Antony wished to be buried in Alexandria, rather than Rome, next to Cleopatra. Octavian publicly read the will to the Roman Senate, further turning public opinion against Antony. Octavian declared war on Cleopatra and started the final war of the Roman Republic. The navy of Octavian waged war against the navy of Antony and Cleopatra, which was defending Alexandria in 31 BC. Antony was defeated in battle on September 2nd, leading to the destruction of most of their fleet. With Octavian approaching Alexandria, Antony committed suicide by stabbing himself on August 1st, 30th BC. He was falsely informed Cleopatra was already dead, so had his remaining servants bring him to her tomb where he died in her arms. Cleopatra was unable to negotiate with Octavian, who planned to display her in Rome in a triumphal parade. Wanting to avoid this humiliation, Cleopatra committed suicide on August 12th, 30th BC at age 39, the method long speculated to be poisonous snakebite. With her death, the 3-century-long Ptolemaic Greek dynasty ruling Egypt ended. It marked the start of Roman annexation of Egypt as a province, ending a final period of independence for the ancient civilization. Cleopatra's reign is one of complex legacies. Viewed by Romans as a seducer and threat, she was subject to propaganda smear campaigns by her adversaries. But she remained widely admired by her subjects for embracing Egyptian culture. As one of history's most prominent female rulers presiding over a rich kingdom in its twilight, Cleopatra has retained an aura of exotic mysticism and romance, despite being the last sovereign of an ancient dying empire.